Hey everyone, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. Time is up. It is now SHTF time, folks. It is falling apart and falling apart fast. It stuns me every day. Everything that's happening. President Xi Biden comes out and calls the Afghan withdrawal an extraordinary success. And he slurred his words today. He's an absolute disgrace. Number one, it wasn't a withdrawal. It was a surrender, an abandonment, an unprecedented retreat. And his so-called withdrawal resulted in 13 dead service members so far. Who knows how many Americans, because the State Department, the Pentagon, the president's administration, nobody knows how many Americans were there, were rescued, were left behind. They threw a number out today, 200. Oh, that's fucking acceptable? That's acceptable? 200 Americans are still there and abandoned, left behind? That's just fine, I guess. That's about half of what was kidnapped, taken hostage by the Iranians in the late 1970s under the Jimmy Carter administration. For that many people, we would send the military in to rescue them with helicopters and kick the ever-loving shit out of everyone else just for being there, for witnessing it. And he wants to call this an extraordinary success. There is a lot of frustration and anger out there, folks. And I want to thank Mr. T again, who did that great intro, great presentation. I gotta tell you, man, there's not enough room on the software panel. You got like a panel here for doing stuff. There's just not quite enough room for all of that. I'm going to continue to use them though, and I love them. They're great. Now get this, folks. How do we say this? The Pentagon spokesman, John Kirby, said, hey, it's fine. We have Americans that get stranded in countries all the time. That was his response about, hey, there's Americans stranded there. You guys pulled out and left? He says, oh, we have, Americans that get stranded in countries all the time. Folks, they don't get stranded in the thousands. And he can't tell us it's just a couple of hundred. They don't know. We don't have thousands of Americans stranded in a country with no way to get out while being harassed, detained, and beaten. We don't have thousands of Americans stranded in countries that have been handed over to terrorist organizations, along with $85 billion in military equipment. We don't have thousands and thousands of American soldiers stranded in countries, American citizens stranded in countries that are owned by terrorists, operating with our military equipment, where Americans are going to be murdered for being Americans. See how they try and play this shit off? Oh, it was an extraordinary success as we left potentially thousands of Americans, but we don't really know how many, in the hands of murderous Taliban who have been harassing, beating, raping, and everything else. Just fine. That's fine. It happens all the time. So because it happens all the time, I guess, right? Hello, McFly. Anyone home there? McKirby, anyone home? Anyone home, McKirby? If it happened all the time, then we got a fucking problem. You're doing something mighty wrong there, Buster. Mighty wrong. Oh yeah, folks. Time is up. Shit has hit the fan and time is up. Speaking of time, I was surprised because I don't put it past the Biden administration and Xi Biden himself to break protocol and fail to stand up and do what he's supposed to. But Biden, folks, was at Dover Air Base as our slain servicemen, 13 of them, were carried off the plane. And what does Joe Biden do? He checked his watch at least 5 times. I guess he wanted to know what time it was. I'll tell you what time it is, pal. It is shit, it's the fan time. It's going to get a lot worse now. We're going to see the consequences of the Taliban owning everything. But the mainstream media is not going to share it. They're not going to show it. In fact, people are already being silenced. There was one particular Gold Star mom. That is the mother of United States Marine Corps Lance Corporal Kareem Nakui. He was killed during that suicide bomber attack, and she's not happy. She complained about it, the fact that her son was dead, and her Instagram account was deleted after she posted a photo and tribute message to her dead son. Now, we have a tribute video that has been made by Mr. T, and I'm wondering if I can even play it now without getting a strike. If the mother made a tribute video, a tribute message, and a photo for her son and got deleted, what is going on, folks? Absolutely, what the hell is going on? The Biden regime, the totalitarian Biden regime, and the mainstream media and big tech and social media aren't allowing anybody to dissent. You can't complain about this. Now, I'm sure, she did have some choice things to write and say about President Gigi Biden. Make no mistake, she wasn't happy with him. And this is probably a great way to put it. When parents speak out, right, over their slain sons and daughters, Marines and corpsmen, they're blaming Biden, folks. They're not speaking out and blaming the Taliban or blaming ISIS. And they told President Gigi Biden, don't you ever forget. They're enraged, folks, because this was unnecessary. See, there's a big difference between dying while serving and dying while serving because of absolutely horrific mistakes. There are being right now more and more calls for Biden to be impeached, for him to resign, for the 25th Amendment to be invoked. We've got some big shit coming. And it needs to happen. America's waking up really fast. The powers that be, the deep state up in Washington, they need to make their next move. They need to put Kamala in place. They need to start playing their game, playing their cards. They're taking a lot of heat right now. And trust me, they feel it. They don't like it. They like America stupid and asleep. That's what they like. But America's waking up and they're pissed off. I'm continuing to get messages from veterans, from real Americans, folks, patriotic Americans, civilians, veterans, non-veterans, everyone, folks, are just pissed. Now, there are some people that are quitting in government. And I have to be very careful about talking to this, but 2 senior Food and Drug Administration officials have stepped down. The rest of that article and story are going to be on Patreon. I can't give you the details because even though I would be reading something that actually happened that's factual, I just can't say all of the words. So folks, you got to get to Patreon. And I know right now, as I speak live with you guys on Patreon, you you know that you can go right over there and click on these stories. You get Monday through Friday monologue with Q&A. You get the uncensored weekly wrap-up. You get it all. And so thank you very much. In fact, please be sure and get your questions over to Jolene, because I get the first half of the hour. You guys get the second half, and we'll finish this thing off. But every day, folks, I get a list this freaking long of headlines, and each headline has a very detailed story, and it's hard to keep up with. And I think they do that on purpose. And I'm starting to believe that the Democrats, the powers that be, the jackasses in charge, are purposefully, intentionally pissing people off and causing this mayhem to excite and enrage the American public so they act out in a violent fashion. Now, of course, it would be completely understandable if they did. After all, it's okay to burn down half the fucking country because a drug-dealing scumbag who pointed a pistol at a pregnant woman's belly as a threat, and I'm sure he would have done it, right? That guy's a national hero and icon for the left. You bet, folks. Now, St. George Floyd was no saint, but we have 13 slain Americans, not counting the civilians. We're just talking about just the ones that died in the bomb blast. And 90 proof Nancy, 90 proof Piglosi has prohibited their names from being read on the House floor. She's blocked it, prohibited it, stopped it. Their names will not be read into the congressional record that they were killed in Afghanistan as a result of the decision to abandon, retreat, surrender Afghanistan to a bunch of wackos. Now, why can't they just read their names? Why can't they say that? Why? Free speech, even at that level, is prohibited. Their names aren't worth reading. But AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she can lie about the president all she wants on the House floor. She can lie about being threatened on January 6th when she was nowhere in the building. But no one can read the names of American servicemen and women. That's the country we have, folks. That is the government we have. Okay, let us move on, because we got a lot to cover, folks. Every day it's a struggle to get through everything. This is a huge one right here. So I want you guys to think about this one. Put on your thinking cap. An Afghan security contractor, meaning someone who knows what the hell is going on, like a defense contractor, or maybe you could say the words mercenary. An Afghan security contractor said that the Taliban was blocking Americans. Remember, they put up roadblocks, checkpoints, papers, please, or, and they, instead of, I think instead of having German shepherds out there, I bet they have like sniffing goats. Anyways, this security contractor said that the Taliban was blocking and stopping and prohibiting Americans from getting into the airport at Kabul and onto flights and out. But what they did do is they put their people, the Taliban put their people through the checkpoints instead. The Taliban put their people through checkpoints instead. This is coming from the Afghan security contractor. I'll see if I can get you a little name there. If you're on Patreon, you can go right to the story and read it all yourself. Here's what I take from that, folks. I'm not just a headline reader, right? There's all kinds of fucking people all over the place on YouTube and other sites. They just want to read the news like they're doing you a favor. I guess they're doing someone a favor, but I want to give you a twist on this. What does this mean? Afghan security contractors saying that the Taliban put their own people through. George McMillan is the man's name. Security contractor and intelligent analyst. You know, he went on Newsmax. Here's my take on it. My worry has been for every one American they brought back another 19 Afghanis. Okay, out of all of those, if we got 1,000, get this, folks, if we got 1,000 Americans back, that means we got 19,000 Afghans. If we got, let's just say, all 30,000 Americans out of that country and back, what's 30 times 19? 257,000 Afghanis. Essentially, 250,000 of them have left that country, and the Taliban was putting their people in with them. They were inserting their people, and they're now landing in this country. We happen to have an intel agent on the ground, the Prepared Mind Network, at Chicago O'Hare Airport, who says, "Oh yeah, they're landing. They're landing there. They're being offloaded, and I think being sent to another nearby state." Big concern, folks, about what is being done with them. What are they being done? What are all these Taliban? Because now we have testimony. We have testimony that Afghani Taliban are here in our country. What do you think they're going to do? Join the Girl Scouts and sell cookies? You think they're going to go down and start working at presumably the Ford, GM, or Dodge auto manufacturing plants, or Toyota, or any of the others that are here? You think they're here looking for jobs? Or do you think they're here to start some shit? Head scratcher, right? Makes me wonder. And that was the proof I needed, folks. That was the testimony I wanted to hear. Absolutely stunning what is going on, folks. Now, Secretary Blinken ignores reporters asking questions about Americans who are left behind in Afghanistan. Now, who is Secretary Blinken? Oh, that's the Secretary of State. You know, in a lot of administrations, we don't really know who the Secretary of this and the Secretary of that, but usually the Secretary of State is someone that we know. You know, like Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State for Biden. Anyways, Antony gave a press briefing after the last United States planes left Afghanistan. And again, we don't know how many thousands and hundreds and thousands and hundreds of Americans in pockets all over the place were abandoned there. Right now, there's Americans, people that could live next door to you, that could hold a conversation with you, that you could share stories with, that had so much in common you would think that you were related. There's people like that in Afghanistan, scared to death that they're going to be found out, captured, and killed, or worse. Right? While all this was going on, this abandonment, Gigi Biden was at Camp David, and Blinken was probably sipping an umbrella drink in the Hamptons. Here's what he said. More than 123,000 people have been safely flown out of Afghanistan. This is Secretary Blinken, who admitted they don't know shit. He said that includes about 6,000 American citizens. Folks, what? He says this has been a massive military, diplomatic, and humanitarian undertaking, one of the most difficult in our nation's history. It didn't need to be that way, folks. It didn't have to be that way. They made it into this problem. And 6,000 Americans out of, we heard a number of up to 50,000 Americans were in Afghanistan. And he says, well, we got about 6,000 Americans. Just unfucking believable. And as soon as he was done congratulating himself on what a great job they did, he ran from the lectern, right? Refused to answer any questions. He turned his back on America the same way Biden turned his back on America. Come up, you make it just a grandiose speech, grandiose, congratulate yourself as Americans are condemned to an uncertain death. Folks, this is why the military is pissed. This is why everyone is pissed and upset. Who else is pissed and upset? Who else says, look, time is up, enough of this shit? How about 90 retired generals and admirals who have called for General Milley, aka Milli Vanilli, and Secretary of Defense Austin to resign immediately? Right? Folks, but get this. They have no honor. They have no dignity. They will not resign. They will not resign. Around the world right now, the U.S. military, retired military, around the world, folks, the military, active duty and retired of other nations are having the same problems with their government, saying they're pissed off. They've had it. They're seeing civil war coming. I got a text message today from retired military Sergeant Major who said, yeah, it's looking like them, DC is pushing and pushing and pushing for partisan conflict inside the country. And it's very possible, folks. It's very possible. But I said this is also happening around the world. And I've got a little bit of evidence here. Got a little bit of testimony for you to that. How about Germany? Germany right now is facing a political revolution in 4 weeks, folks. 4 weeks. Now, imagine what would happen in Germany. This is a political revolution. And the statement is, it's overdue and the unthinkable has become possible. Now, this is if they vote out the current government and administration and all the ministers of parliament, MPs, whatever they call them over there, Congress people. Imagine what would happen, though, if their upcoming votes are changed by fraud in order to keep this current government and regime in Germany in power. They could go from a civil, polite change of government that the people in charge are going, hey man, that's like a revolution if we lose our jobs. No, sorry. You're elected. You aren't knighted and crowned, right? It could go from a civil change in government to a violent revolt. This is what is being warned about by military personnel everywhere. Now, a lot of these old farts, right, that actually went to war college, actually studied history, actually know the consequences of political decisions when they are not in accord with natural law and proper administrative action. People revolt. They become violent. The systems fail. Wake up, world. We're being lied to about government and what's happening. Wake up, right? In Germany, folks, the unthinkable has become possible. And what happened in America, we know all about all the tax audits that are going on. What happened in America is unthinkable and has the potential to also start some very bad processes into motion. I tell you, this is a good one. I really think it's important, folks, that America continues to wake up, that we share information, and we do a great job, you and I. And what you do is keeping us going. What you do by supporting the Prepared Mind Network, the R Syndicate, the preparedmind.club, by supporting others, that are in the business, if you will, of getting information out by sharing it, sharing links, networking, right? Networking. We have to keep communicating because they're going to try and stop us. The same way they're trying to stop the mother of a slain Marine. So Gateway Pundit is launching a January 6th prisoner information website called AmericanGulag.org. How appropriate is that? Now, this AmericanGulag.org is not in support of what the government is doing to the, as far as I'm concerned, unlawfully charged, detained, and tortured American citizens in Washington, D.C. They want people to know who's in there, what's happening to them, what their status is. It's incredible. It has become the modern day Bastille. Now, I want to remind everyone what the Bastille is. Bastille Day in France is like their July 4th. It's when the people said we'd had enough of our citizens being arrested unlawfully for speaking out against government, for having their free speech, their freedom of movement, their freedom, all their freedoms and liberties just taken away. And they were thrown in prison, the Bastille. And the people said that's enough. They stormed the Bastille. They freed all the prisoners. Then they went on to capture the king and chop his head off with a guillotine. You bet, folks. Bastille, Gulag. A Gulag is a communist Soviet prison camp where political prisoners were held. Way the fuck out in Siberia. The American equivalent of Siberia, northern Alaska, same thing, about the same height. Just incredible. I don't really want to talk about Dr. Fauci using taxpayer money to have dogs used in tortuous experiments. It is what he is being accused of being a part of, folks, is heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, disgusting, evil beyond comparison. I mean, never mind using fetal human tissue, grafting it to mice in order to grow baby parts on mice. Never mind what he has been tied to with regard to gain-of-function weaponization of bio-experiments, like cerveza bug. Now he's being tied to this. It is just disgusting what this guy has done at the National Institutes of Health. He is starting to make Joseph Mengele look like an amateur, folks. The same way the communist leaders in Russia and China make Hitler look like an amateur. And nobody understands. Nobody knows because they hide that information. They don't teach it. They don't want everyone to know. They certainly don't. I've got other things here, folks. There's stuff I can't share, stuff I can't share. Nigel Farage, who is noted for starting the independent party in the United Kingdom, UKIP, the UK Independent Party. And he, I would say, was the tip of the spear point on the Brexit system. Only took him like 17 years, but he got it done. Not bad for one guy, working with thousands and thousands. But he says, I would not trust America under this administration, right? Basically, saying Great Britain will refuse any new military inventions while Biden is in charge. In other words, folks, now the enemies of America are happier. The enemies of America know that America isn't going to have any allies step in with America and say, yeah, we'll join you in the fight, because America, the Biden administration, Secretary of Defense and Joint Chiefs of Staff abandoned our allies and their citizens. So now they're like, we don't trust you. Why the fuck should we trust anything you say? Folks, whether it has anything to do with the military, trade, currency, why should they trust anything that's said? See, that's what happens when you break trust. And Jolene, get ready. I've got one more little thing to run over, and then we're going to get to the questions that you guys at Patreon have. Trust. Trust. There was another liberal teacher wanting to spit in the face of America, our founding fathers, trample our flag, crap on the Constitution, and piss down everyone's backs and tell them it's raining in Orange County, California. A really smart teacher uploaded to her TikTok account, and this is Kristen Pitzen at Bayback High School in the Newport Mesa Unified School District. She revealed that she doesn't make the kids say the Pledge of Allegiance and that she also doesn't have the Star-Spangled Banner in a classroom. She claimed that she took the flag down because it made her uncomfortable. But what she did do was suggested students they can say a Pledge of Allegiance to the pride flag. There you go, folks. Trust. Trust. And she shows off all the pride flags in her classroom and says, I pledge allegiance to the queers, while wearing rainbow earrings and rainbow suspenders. Sadly, folks, rainbows have been forever scarred. Rainbows are embarrassed now. Here's the deal. We used to trust teachers with our children. America, take your children to public schools. We'll teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic. Done. Absolutely done. No more. No more. Teachers have broken trust with us. They've done this critical race theory, this 1619 project, all of this anti-white, anti-America, anti-male, anti-free freedom, anti-free economy, all of their shit. They have completely lost their fucking minds when it comes to education, thinking they own the kids. Not to mention that they want to give them all the Jim Jones juice they can handle, as well as, I guess, give them a ride to the abortion clinic whenever they feel like. They may as well start handing out LSD and joints. All right, let's do this if we should. Let us, folks. I sure wish. I want to remind everyone that if I disappear from here, now you guys on Patreon are good, but if I disappear from here, you can go to the R Syndicate. Go to the R Syndicate, and you'll find out where I'm at, as well as everyone else who's been removed off of YouTube because Uman, the great blue wrench administrator or moderator here, Jolene's he handles the R Syndicate, and he's got everyone listed there. It is a catalog of prepping channel, prepping websites, everything. So let me get this out, because to hear something is one thing, but to hear and see it is another. And on the other side, we're going to get to your questions. righty, that's once again, that's one of Mr. T's creations for us, folks. The R Syndicate is a great resource. Now let's move on to the questions. Kaz says this: we cannot forget the blame lies on the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, as well as 90 Proof Nancy, Chuck Schumer, and every rhino Republican that supported that BS. Folks, Kaz is saying that conflict is inevitable. And I have to be careful in the choice of words sometimes. If I string together too many naughty ones, right, I might get an electric shock. Anyways, it's hard not to agree with Kaz. In fact, all of the progress, the movement, the direction of everything is exactly as he's described. But yeah, this isn't all Biden. But they're going to put it on all Biden because he looks like he's going to be the fall guy for this. But the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Pentagon, because remember, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, they have their own staff. These generals have big offices in the Pentagon with lots of people working for them, giving them all the support they need. Oh, yes, sir, General. You're so fucking brilliant. By the way, nice lipstick and nylons today. They look great on you, sir. Yeah, they all, folks, need to be remembered. All of them need to be remembered for allowing the fraud, corruption, and criminality to not only exist, but persist. Wow. Oh, we got Jenny Jen checks in and says, devastated over what has happened in Afghanistan, and so over all the censorship going on. How dare Bucking Biden and his cackling cohort and or those who hold their leashes attempt to, Jenny has got a lot to say, attempt to diminish the freedoms our veterans, past and present, have fought so valiantly for. Are we now back to square one? Hate that I have to raise my son and what this country is coming to. But make no mistake, I am pointing out all the wrong and am teaching him the Constitution. God bless America and what it's supposed to stand for. Yeah, it is. I think the most important point I want to focus in on there, Jenny, is we're back to square one. Square one. America, the United States of America, is back to the same square that the colonies were in when dealing with King George way back in England. I'm pointing to England. See, I point to DC, point to England, point to China, point to Australia. England, square one. There's a government that is so geographically far from everyone else and also philosophically far from everyone else. They're so far away. The gulf or distance is so wide that there can't be any understanding between the two. Those in power who are tyrannical believe that they rightfully possess that power and that people have no rights, that they have mere privilege. Yes, we're back to square one. What does that mean to me and you and us? Well, we know what we should have. We should have all of our rights: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, freedom, locomotion, the right to do business, the right to come and go as we fucking please. All that shit, everything, all the Bill of Rights, everything, protection from the state, protection from the feds, protection from local government, protection from government, period. They aren't allowed into our bank accounts, our fucking wallets, into our homes. They have to have proof of a crime ahead of time, not just a little reasonable suspicion and we're in. And by the way, we're going to take all your shit. None of that. It needs to stop, right? But yeah, square one. We're all the way back there to where there needs to be a declaration of independence. And I'm not calling for insurrection. I'm not calling for violence. I'm not calling for revolution. I'm saying this is the point we're at. We're in the same uncomfortable, we're in the same, folks, position as our colonial forefathers and foremothers. The unenviable position of being nothing more than a human resource. Now, 200, 300, 400 years ago, that was called chattel. chattel. It's kind of like cattle, but it's chattel. Property that the state owns, governs, regulates, and can do away with or let exist however it sees fit. That's what we are now. We've made it all the way full circle to where they think they are gods and we are their property. They're slaves, if you will. And it is a very unenviable position because at any time there could be a, hey, we're here to arrest you. Just like in colonial America. And just like in colonial America, folks, the Americans had guns. The colonists had guns. Now the government, that is the British governors, the redcoats, British soldiers and police forces, didn't like that Americans had guns. Colonial Americans I'm talking about. Nor did today the tyrannical elements within the government. I'm going to say that again, the tyrannical elements. Not everyone, folks, just those that are tyrannical. And if they ever have been, they'll be remembered for it. They didn't like that the colonies had guns, and so they tried taking them, and ultimately it resulted in conflict. You could call it partisan conflict if you want. I kind of like that term because it sounds a little more rosy and gets me in a little less trouble. Partisan conflict. It was people who were against the king. It wasn't Republicans and Democrats. It was the king and his Tories or his supporters in the colonies. And, you know, those rebel scum. That is the colonists who said, we want to be free. Folks, right now, that is a clarion call that I am hearing every fucking day. Every day. Freedom. We want our freedom. We want our lives respected by our government, not treated like disposable units or human resources. We're not human resources. We're not chattel. We are the people. And we have a right and indeed a duty when government becomes tyrannical to replace it with one that isn't. I think I can say it in that kind of a nice tone. All right. Anyways, thank you, Jenny Jen. Yes, we are at square one. We're back to where we began with a tyrannical government abusing the shit out of us. All right. We got Blue Coat Gorilla. He says, at the rate these people are going, they will have played all their cards by Christmas and having nothing left but to give us aliens for Christmas for distraction. Oh, ye of little faith, Blue Coat Gorilla. I see what you're saying. Okay, you've heard of, man, I did everything I could. I threw everything I had at the problem, including the kitchen sink. Including the kitchen sink, right? We've all heard that. The proverbial kitchen fucking sink. Okay. They have surprised me. And I think I've got a pretty good fucking imagination. Get yourself some branch water, folks. Every time I think they're done inventing new bullshit to screw us with, they come up with some more. We thought, okay, Cerveza bug, we'll be done with it. It'll go away. They're like, oh, no, it's going to mutate into variants. And no, there's one from this other country and it's coming. And what? They won't let up on any of it. They'll invent something new. Don't worry. They're going to come up with plenty of shit to keep us busy. But they'll always have that aliens, asteroid impact. They're gonna keep playing their cards, folks. But they've got plenty more lies. I mean, they've got half the country believing that getting out of Afghanistan the way they did is just fine. They've got half the country believing, folks, that they can print money on a printing press that is based on nothing and it'll retain its value as they give it away to all their friends. 9/11. People stayed home for days. They were scared to death. They were pissed off, upset. Their country had been attacked. It was a huge deal. And the president had to come out. President W came out and had to tell people, hey, it's okay. We need to go back to work. Go out, do some shopping, be Americans. It's okay. We got this under control. Because the impact on the economy was huge. The retail business, financial transactions, everything. medicine, everything, manufacturing, everything was being just shut down. They didn't want it to stay down for 2 weeks back then. Well, they started out Cerveza Bug with, let's just take 2 fucking weeks off to flatten the curve. My ass, right? Everything's been shut down for 18 months, barely working the country. And we're supposed to believe it's all fine. Oh, they have lies, folks. They've got lies on top of lies on lies, and half the country believes it. They've got more. Mikey G checks in and says, if they are trying to cause civil unrest on purpose, who do they think the unrest will be directed against? Common sense says they would say those in power, right? Well, that's a great point, Mikey. What percentage of the population has common sense? Right, that's the problem. Therein lies the rub. Half the country has no common sense, and they're going to blame any political unrest and its cause on you. That's right, you patriots, you bunch of domestic violent extremists, white supremacist, racist Nazis who won't take the Jerry Jones juice, who think that tequila is an awful drink. You guys are the problem. That's why everyone's dying. The economy's failing. The government is having trouble. It's you guys. So we're going to have approximately half the country with no common sense pointing at you, me, us. Now, your question. Who do they think the unrest will be directed against? Maybe the question is, who do the powers that be in Washington, D.C., New York City, Chicago, L.A., San Francisco, and other major cities domestically and around the world, who do they suspect the unrest is going to be directed at from patriotic people using common sense and understanding who caused the problem? They know that it's us going to be looking for them. Right? I have no need to go out and screw with all the ridiculous Democrats on the street. They have nothing to do with the problem. They're a symptom of the problem. The problem is the people like Zark Muckerberg and Beth Jesus, right? Sorge Goros, those type of guys, the Gil Bateses of the world, and many thousands, folks, thousands of CEOs, CFOs, CIOs, EIEIOs, all of these big shots in the corporate world, the banking world, that have pushed all of this social equity, social justice, woke crap, influencing government, punishing people like Jack fucking Dorsey, right? Silencing people, silencing the president of the United States while allowing the Taliban this entire time, not just since they took over, but for years, the Taliban has been talking shit all over Twitter. But the president of the United States is dangerous. Oh, yeah. All of those people, folks, that's why they own bunkers in North Dakota, Wyoming, South Dakota, Colorado, Utah, Montana. That's why they own stuff in, a lot of them in New Mexico. I mean, some of them just keep their homes in, upstate New York and Michigan, even the California mountains. They're going to hide in their fucking holes and hope we forget all about them. All about them. But we are going to remember them because we're using common sense and we know that they are responsible for this. Now, months ago, I met Trojan Man. That's right, the guy who works for Trojan Products. Right? Is he the reason that the world is all fucked up? Now, this guy's like the head of marketing for Trojan Man. He wasn't like Trojan. He was Trojan Man, but he's not making decisions trying to destroy the planet. But I bet if someone ran into Trojan Man, they would say, hey, dude, what was your job and what did you do? And he's going to tell them. And they're going to say, okay, you're okay, move along. But we're going to find the people, folks, that are responsible for this. And they're ultimately going to be held to account. All right, we got Phantom Bar checks in. It says the House Freedom Caucus has called for the resignation of President Gigi Biden, Secretary Blinken, Secretary of Defense Austin Lloyd, or Lloyd Austin, and General Millie Vanilli. They have also filed articles of impeachment. Now, I'm glad that the House Freedom Caucus has done all this. Sadly, it's not going to get the media attention on ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNBC, CNN, but we're covering it here on the Prepared Mind channel. They can file the articles of impeachment till they're blue in the face. It is nothing more than a symbolic gesture of their political will and dissatisfaction with the current Washington regime. In other words, they don't have a majority and they're not going to get anywhere. And it's understood. But I'm glad they're doing it. And I'm not putting it down. I'm not belittling it. I'm just saying, what from our side of the fence, I'm glad they're doing it. The Freedom Caucus is not Rhino Republicans. It's the actual Congress people who love the country. Crazy. Now, this is from Todd. He says, Raggedy Ann. And when someone says Raggedy Ann in 2021, they mean the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, Raggedy Ann. Raggedy Ann said, Biden isn't going to Louisiana because it takes too many resources. Oh, what? Oh, my head is about to explode. Good golly. Louisiana right now, folks, has huge sections of their power grid just absolutely destroyed and demolished by Hurricane Ida. Thoughts and prayers, hope, faith that everyone can get through it. And if you can, folks, help out the people in Louisiana. The governor has said, hey, look, you don't get 100 days to get the power back on. We want it back on ASAP. None of this crap, right, that happened with Hurricane Katrina. And I hope that people are able and allowed this time to bring food, water, and help and assist as much as they can. But the President of the United States doesn't want to use the resources. You mean like the resources to fly Camel Toes Harris, Vice President, down all through South and Central America, and now she's over in the Far East, flying around on the other side of the frickin' Pacific, on the other side of the planet, folks. She's flying around, raising her right hand in front of shrines to communists. But we don't have the resources to send the President of the United States down to Louisiana. See, this is how stupid they are. This would be a chance for him to look like he actually gives a fuck. Fly down there, get out, get an ice cream cone. Get a shotgun, shoot off a few rounds, then get an ice cream cone, Joe. And go talk to little people, like little girls, since you like little, go talk to people and look like you care. He's not even going to do that, folks. That is how bad the optics are. They're that stupid. They don't see this as a photo op. Now, but the president's so busy dealing with Afghanistan, my ass. His staff is trying to get him out of the mess that they got themselves in. The entire presidency can fit in Air Force One. It is a skiff. It is a command center. It is the nerve and brain center for World War III if it were to happen. President takes off, is in Air Force One, can command and control the entire planet. Right? That was what it was built and designed for. And everywhere the president goes, they go on Air Force One. He goes, walks across the lawn, gets on Marine One, a helicopter, lifts off, flies over to Air Force One, gets on it, and goes everywhere. And you can run the whole country from Air Force One. He could fly all the way to Louisiana, hop off, eat an ice cream cone, do a couple photo ops, pretend like he gives a shit, read a prepared statement, tell everyone that he loves them and that they're going to take care of them, and the federal government will not abandon them. Will not abandon them. And then he can get back on the plane and go somewhere else. Won't even do that. Mike Lundakis says this: I absolutely can't stand the speakers outside retailers announcing things like social distancing and wearing masks. It reminds me of Chinese propaganda. I'll tell you what, Mike, fortunately, I've never been subjected to Chinese propaganda that I know of. But I've flown around the country and I've been around the world a little bit, and I've heard, yeah, it was bad enough hearing that there's no parking in the white zone. The white zone is for loading and unloading only. It's bad enough hearing that. But under the Obama, the Barack Hussein Barry Soetoro Obama presidency, we had to listen to Janet fucking Napolitano in Walmarts way back then in 2008 and 9, talking about see something, say something. And they started their snitch propaganda, their government mandates, their government recommendations, what they call guidance now. No. You don't get to fucking guide me. And if it's just guidance, then fuck off. I don't need to be guided. I don't want to be guided. I refuse to be guided. No, what they're saying is this is a mandate and we want everyone to obey. And they're calling it guidance. Yeah, now we're getting all these messages. Be sure to stay 6 feet from all people. Wear your masks. We don't like anybody that doesn't like jungle juice. Please get your jungle juice in the pharmacy. Line up. We have beds in case you need to pass out and die. All right, we got Sally Sue says, do you feel there could be a connection between the surprising attention the mainstream media is giving to the Afghanistan right when the tax audit results were supposed to be released? Oh, there's definitely a connection here. Now, one of the things we need to understand is the government did not, let me repeat this, the Biden administration, Secretary of Defense, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Pentagon, they did not decide overnight. They didn't just sit around and went, what do we do with that Afghanistan thing? Someone had rolled some dice and like, snake eyes, abandon ship, leave it. And this was being planned, folks, for a while. They don't do anything without planning. You don't go to another country with your military without planning, supplying, understanding who's there, everything else, before you send in the fighters, right? And the fighters have to be prepped and trained for it. So you don't, the opposite is true. You don't say, okay, everyone, retreat, run, get back, with no planning. This entire spectacle of incompetence was planned. So in reference, Sally Sue, I am agreeing and saying, yeah, it was planned in part and has some connection to all of the tax audits that have been going on in the various states with regard to their tax fraud that occurred. For those that are new, someone in the comments will answer what tax fraud means. Okay, now, I want to touch back on the last question, Jolene, having to do with, was there a connection? Was it planned? It was planned. What else was planned? What evidence do I have? What evidence do I have that, yeah, it really was planned? That it wasn't just that we just changed our mind, let's get out and everyone run. Now, maybe they had all this planning and said, fuck you to the rest of the world. I believe that. But I don't think the White House, the Secretary of Defense, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Pentagon all said, let's just make a decision overnight with no planning. How do we know this? Because for months and months, they have been sending massive amounts of military equipment, helicopters, Humvees, guns, ammunition, explosives, ordnance, drones, uniforms, equipment, etc., over there. $85 billion worth of equipment was left whole, intact with the Taliban. And we find out after all of this shit's falling apart that the United States government has an agreement with the Taliban to allow Americans to get to the airport. So after the military pulls out, then the Taliban was supposed to provide security. And then they even tell us the Taliban is our partner in providing security. They're terrorists, right? So you made a deal with terrorists ahead of time that nobody else knew about. Smells like bullshit, right? I smell the CIA on this. It's a shit show, folks. They knew exactly what they were doing. They planned it to the extent they're like, okay, we got everything in place. Fuck it. Oh, yeah. Let's try, and maybe we'll get some cover on the tax audit as well. But that can come out, folks, and it can become front and center. But don't underestimate the value of more false flags. Don't underestimate the ignorance of the American people and their willingness to swallow without chewing the propaganda coming out of the mainstream media, big tech, Washington, New York, the Federal Reserve, oh yeah, and the CDC. Casey Lowry says this: why didn't Trump shut down Twitter like Reagan did to Pac Bell? I believe it was Ma Bell, AT&T. Didn't Reagan shut down AT&T? Yeah, he broke up AT&T. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I got that right. I got confused there because Pac Bell is what we had on the West Coast, Pacific Bell. Let me try this again. Why didn't Trump shut down Twitter like Reagan did to Pacific Bell? Why don't our leaders shut the motherfuckers down? It's a sad scene. I'll tell you what, Casey, you ask a question that an intelligent person would ask. Can I have that question back up, Jolie? I need to refer to it a little more. It's a great question. Why don't they shut them down? Why don't our leaders, first of all, they're elected representatives. We have gotten into the habit, we, me, you, us, all of us, the entire country, of calling them our leaders. They're not our leaders, obviously, because we're the ones telling them where they should go. We lead them. They represent our thoughts. They're not leaders, and they're certainly demonstrating they're not leaders, because if they were, leaders take the initiative. These people are taking no initiative, as you rightfully point out. Reagan was a elected representative, the president, who had leadership qualities and skills, who went after Ma Bell and broke it up because it was an abusive monopoly. So now we've got big tech. Why don't our leaders shut it down? Well, politicians have been rewarded financially for hundreds of years, but certainly in the last 30 years, they have granted themselves more and more power, the ability to do insider trading to affect the market and capitalize on it. So if they're not willing to shut down big tech, what does that tell you? Because their prime motivator is money, greed. Now, if their prime motivator was fear, they would respond to that over greed. Fear triumphs over greed. So their greed is protected, so they are not fearful of the people's will. They feel like they're insulated against us, like we don't fucking matter. Now, when the bullets start flying, I guarantee there's going to be an awful lot of fucking fear, not only in all the corporate leadership that'll be running for the runway to get in their little Lear jets and fly their asses to their bunkers. But you can bet your ass, folks, that politicians are going to be very fearful and start screaming, oh no, we're going to fix this right now. By then, it's too late. There will be conflict. It's coming, folks. There's nothing we can do to stop it, so you need to be prepared for it. Great comment and question. They're not our leaders. They aren't our benefactors. They're elected representatives who are taking all the money they can and don't give a shit about stopping them. They're probably getting extra money out of big tech for allowing them to control us, which meets the political agenda that they've all been taken out and back into the woodshed and reminded of. Holy cow, we're past 1 hour. All right, we got Tennessee Mountains Preparedness checks in, says, it seems painfully obvious that they are on purpose trying to destroy the country and don't seem to care about what anybody thinks. That is an extension of the comments that just came in having to do with just big techs. It's the same thing. They don't care because they don't fear us. They have us, the people, we, me, you, us, all of us, so fearful, so afraid of them. The government, the police, the military, the Chinese, the aliens, we're all so afraid of them, right? That we're not paying any attention to Washington. The focus, of course, is pointed out earlier at those with common sense, as we know who is truly responsible for this. The political class in this country doesn't care. And you are absolutely correct. I am 100% of the opinion that they are creating this damage and destruction to the United States of America. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to point to the Great Reset, the Bilderbergs, the Illuminati, all of the bad guys out there who have told us they want a new world order. And their motto, folks, is order out of chaos. Well, if the world was A-OK, there would be no chaos. And they could not transform it into what they wanted. So they need to create the chaos, that is, destroy America. By destroying America, they create chaos. Now they have this chaotic flaming ball of America, and indeed the whole world. And now they can make order out of that chaos. Right? So they divide us into groups. They dehumanize certain people. Then they destroy them and get rid of them. They create chaos so they can offer their solution. That's Hegelian dialect. Problem, reaction, solution. There's a huge problem, chaos. The people say, government, please save us. You're our leaders. And so they offer the solution, which is what they've wanted all along. Their order out of chaos. That is what we are in the middle of right now. It's not an event that happens. It is a series of events that play out over many days, months, and years. And in this case, decades. It is a process we're in. Understand it's comprised of thousands and thousands of elements and events that occur that go in a certain direction. It's called an agenda. And they're playing it out. What they want to do, the one holdup they have, is you. You free people of America, you scourge on the evil bastards. They don't like you. And they really don't like the fact that you have guns. And they really don't like the fact that you are well trained as hunters, sportsmen, and veterans. Not to mention current military personnel who believe in freedom and have taken their oath very seriously. Of course, they're being purged right now out of the military. They're called domestic violent extremists, radicals, white supremacists, and other types of extremist language calling them extremists. This is where we're at, folks. This is America. Why do you think I'm sitting in a bunker? You bet. Right? Because it's that time, folks. Time is up on civilized world. Shit, it's the fan is now. Chance favors the prepared mind. Thank you for supporting what we do here on Patreon with your PayPal donations and other donations, the donations of your time to helping other people by sharing with them the information you have learned, your research, your thoughts. All I do is offer information and perspective. Everything else is up to you. Isn't that great? I do what I do, folks. I talk to an awful lot of people and I wake people up all the time. In fact, I feel kind of like that guy with a pot and a spoon just banging the shit out of it and everyone's screaming, shut the fuck up, John. But it's what I do. And it's what I keep doing. And I ask you to do the same. Bang that pot over the head of politicians and wake them the fuck up. You guys are going to be some of the first we come after. Clang. Wake the fuck up and start taking the right action. Now, if they're not motivated by greed, they're motivated by fear. And if they fear not us, but someone else more, gives you an idea what's coming our way. Hey, folks, chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Semper Fi, Godspeed. I will be back very, very, very soon.